one other thing,
you can keep going,
but like one other thing is like the team as well. It's like super important, and again, it's about showing a logical story, right? So like for example, so I personally feel like the team of like Ambrose, Mitchell, and I is literally like a dream team, right? Because you have someone so you have Mitch, who I don't know if in your previous
it will be up at some point anyway.
Right?
So yeah.
So like Mitch, who's like not only insanely technical, but also like dude was 19 and sold a tech company for 6 figures, like whilst in full-time education, right? So you have basically like quote unquote like what's the word for it? It's like the hacker, right? So you have the guy who can literally create the shit, right? And then you have Ambrose, and with Ambrose, the story I always told was this guy, this other time you were still in uni, right? And it was like this guy's in uni, but he's doing a master's in mechanical engineering from Imperial College, and then actually for his dissertation, in which he got a first in, he came up with like the FANBYTES score. It's like, okay, this guy is the like operational genius, right? So you have the guy who can like create shit. You have the guy who can like piece things together. Then you have me, and then I come in and I say, okay, I did computer science, so technical and business. So now I like merge the two together. And also I have experience with like growing and selling a media business, and I sold it at 17. So now the story to an investor is like, if anyone is ever going to make a advertising technology business for young people work, it is going to be young people who have all that like experience come together, right? And so that there, however, is another clear example of basically like following a logical flow and saying, logically, if someone was building an advertising company for like young people, it would be young people. And if the company to be a technology company, then they'd have to be technical. These guys, all three of them, have all of that come together. Logically, these guys are going to be the only possible guys who can make this company work. Done, right? So it's again like thinking about things in a very like super logical way. It always works.
I think breaking that down, the things that I kind of take away from it, like from fundraising to where you are now, is be specific in your niche. At the start, you just said you were focusing on Sony, Warner, Universal. Be specific and get some credibility in a certain area. Then branch out. Show traction, whether that's £300 to go ape or whatever. And then next from that, so we've got traction, specific, team's massive. So when did you first hire someone else to be full-time on here, and how did you find that process?
Go on.
Well, actually, depends what you mean by when did you first hire.
So a full-time in-house staff.
In-house.
That was Lily, right?
So, yeah, well, it's probably actually what some of our interns, like Sophia or...
It was, wasn't it?
But essentially, we had some... One cool thing about us is because we're a young team and we're in a young space where we're looking to hire people also young, we have an amazing network to do this because we both went to university, and a lot of the time when we're hiring, all we literally do is just post on Facebook. And we just get loads of applications. And then on top of that, one thing which we're always fortunate to do is hire interns. And this is a good chance for us to actually test the waters with people before making full-time hires. So a lot of our initial hires were interns, and we just run with them for several months, and
And see how it goes.
But a full-time, like our first full-time was like Lily, right?
Yeah, so our first proper full-time hire was a creative manager, Lily. And the story how we met her was literally, again, I was out at a club, literally down the road from my house, and there was a group of people, and I overheard them talking about Warwick University, right? And then I was surprised. I was so surprised that I didn't know Tim, but that's essentially how the conversation started. And it turned out that Lily, for example, was working in marketing at another company, and at that time we were also looking for someone to fill a certain role. So that conversation kind of went into
so that's kind of the story Ambrose says.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My actual thing is Ambrose was trying to get Lily's number.
Nah.
And then Lily was like, no. And then he was like, okay, come work for me.
Playing the long game.
He showed the entire Facebook conversation.
It's like the longest game ever. It's going to be like, so Lily, the reason I brought you here was because I fancy you. Right, yeah. But yeah, that's like basically, how it happened.
Cool. And where we're at today now is you guys are primarily a Snapchat marketing company. Do you want to talk just for a couple of minutes about what you're doing at the moment and where you also think the plans are for the next year, 2 years, 5 years?
So we actually recently defined our company mission, because at this sort of scale, I think it's really important that everyone is saying the same thing when it comes to like what we're actually about. And essentially what we stand for is we make it easy for any brand to create and distribute engaging mobile video. So right now so if you're thinking about how we do that in stages, the first stage is of course completely dominate Snapchat. So be the guys, and I think we've done a really good job over the past year and a half in being the go-to guys for I'd say Snapchat influencers, but then also Snapchat advertising in general, other than of course Snap themselves. So we built a network of influencers, a network of media pages, and a network of designers to help us create and distribute ads to pretty much anyone who is on Snapchat in like a smart, scalable way.
Awesome. And then the next few years or so, where do you see?
So Tim's our visionary, so I'll let him take this.
So I think if you again like think about a vision like making it easy for any brand to create and distribute engaging mobile video, you can like get this sense of what is mobile video. Well, it's like, video that is inherently placed like on your phone, and that could live on Snapchat, that could live on Instagram, that could live on Musical.ly, that could basically live on any platform where mobile video is being shown. And for us, it's like a big push is like own the technology stack, which is able to do that across like any platform, and then the vision basically being that any brand from our platform can get a mobile video created for them, and then it can be distributed across any social platform, and any social platform which embraces mobile video, and to us that's kind of like the big goal. The person who does that basically is like the person who like really builds a meaningful company, because there's no one in this space who's able to do that. So we're on course to do that.
Awesome. And in the long term, I mean, exits and all that sort of stuff aside, would you two see each other working together in the future on other projects?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know how Tim feels about it. But,
yeah, 100%. I think like 100%, right? And here's the thing, and I think Bailey, you've even realized this yourself. I have like a unique set of skills which I'm like very good at, right? Then I have a lot of things which I'm glaringly shit at, right? So and this is something which a lot of people in the team have said about the way that Ambrose and I relate to each other, right? I'd be like, yo, this is a dope idea, let's do this. This is the framework of it. All right, cool. Now, this is another dope idea. Yeah, let's do this, right? And I think the example I give is that I'm the person who will go on stage in front of like hundreds of people and say, yo, like this is sick and this is going to change your lives, etc. And then like all the people will then line up to say, okay, let's use it. And then I look at Ambrose and I'm like, oh shit. All right, make something happen, right? And then I go to the next room and say that exact same speech again. So I think that, I would definitely love to like, after FANBYTES, work on something else, work with Ambrose, primarily because I think also after like, we haven't been working on this version of FANBYTES for like 4 years, but we've known each other for like, 4.5 years or so, right? You get a very strong sense of like each other, and it's almost like, not only do we complement each other professionally very strongly, but then underlying that is like an emotional understanding of each other, and I think that's like really hard to find like anywhere else, right? So yeah, basically the point is
Yeah. And like on that point about the difference in skills, there are also just definitely things which Tim does which allows me to almost reach my full potential. So an example here is I'm the sort of person who would like to work and get things done efficiently, and like I'm very like achievement mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas Tim's more like the visionary, like the activator is the way I put it. The way I put it is, if I didn't come across Tim, I may never have even started or worked on a business, because I'd have been stuck in like the doing, and then Tim's more like, no, this is the direction, and that kind of like helps me to find my feet, essentially.
Awesome. And just quickly before I move on to the next topic, you were talking about how you find it easy to get up and speak in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people. Do you want to give us some background into how you think you become this confident and just be able to speak in front of lots of people?
Yeah, so I said this, that was basically what my LinkedIn post was about, right? So the reason why I think I'm able to basically like just do that is because of this idea of reference points, right? So reference points are basically like, if you're ever like doing anything, right? If you don't have like past evidence or past positive evidence of you actually doing that thing, you then get fairly scared of doing it, right? Because you don't have any like past evidence of doing it. So reference points are basically your past experiences of doing something which you can then call on which then strengthen your belief that you are good at that thing, right? So for example, with the public speaking now, and this is actually something that happens in every single talk. I like say to Ambrose or Ambrose and me genuine, I say like, I don't quite know what I'm going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And like, and when I say that, it's like, yeah, I have like a loose framework, but I never write out stuff like word for word ever, right? It's just like, oh, these are like the 5 key points, and I know when I hit on this slide, I kind of like have to do this, and then everything else is like improv, right? But the reason why I'm able to do that and just like feel completely fine about it is because I have past experiences of me being able to like speak on stage, even if it's in front of like 50 people. That then was a past experience which then helped me to get like 250 people, and then to then get like 500 people, right? And then go up and up. But because I had like past experiences and I could call upon those like past experiences, it was like far easier for me to then just be able to do that, right? So this is kind of the point I say, anytime you're ever trying out something new, the key thing you should always be like looking for is there a way where I can get some like reference points which would then help strengthen my belief that I can actually like do that thing, right?
Awesome. I think that was a good. I get that as well. I feel like that's very practical advice, and not only for public speaking, but in business as well, right?
Yeah.
You've got your first client, that gives you credibility to have the confidence to go to the next one and the next one.
Yeah.
So, awesome. I'm going to go quickly onto a little bit about the people behind the business, and I want to know some of your mindsets behind some of the topics I'm going to bring up now. It won't be too much longer, but what has been mentally the hardest part of running a startup? And that can be just from coming straight out of uni and, you know, turning down jobs or whatever was on the table and different options, or the day-to-day running of it. What's the toughest thing in your guys' minds?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the hardest things just in general, and it's like still today, is always being able to let go of old mindsets to allow better mindsets to come through. So, for example, like there'll be several times when I'm doing something. In fact, there are a few times, I say this like maybe twice a year or so, where Tim will give me what I call the annual talking to. Where it's kind of like, where he basically just, I kind of feel like things are bubbling up inside him, and then one day it just bursts, right? Where essentially he just tells me everything he thinks that I'm not doing right now. And incidentally, sometimes all those things that I've been doing, they may have been fine 6 months ago, but because the stage we're at in the company, we need to radically change the way we're doing things. One thing Tim says a lot is, you can't. The things that you need to do to get from here to here are different to the things that you need to do to get from here to here, and that's in anything. That's in like size, revenue, stage.
Yeah.
And an example might be initially in the very first stage of the company, you want to be doing things that don't scale. So you want to be doing things manually, like being really personal with, say, the emails you send to people. Then the later stage, you only want to be doing those things that scale, and you can't be doing the things that don't scale because, especially as like a co-founder in a company, you need to be employing people. Your thing should be, how can I sit back and say, this company can run without me because I'm putting in the mechanics to make that work. And sometimes you may get caught up in the day-to-day activities or just doing these menial things. And it works both ways, but sometimes, I tell Tim, or well, quite recently, but we'll get to that. We have I was talking to him too, and same thing with Mitch as well. Mitch will also give that third perspective on everything. So the three of us complement each other and help us to basically see where we're at in our development, in our professional business development, and allow us to have an honest assessment of where we're actually adding value in the company and change our mindsets and evolve that way. So that's kind of like the hardest one for me.
Let's call it the ATM, the annual Tim meeting.
The annual Tim meeting. There we go. Biannual. Tim.
So what's the hardest thing for you, Tim?
The hardest thing also is like the most enjoyable thing for me though. It's the hardest thing for me, I don't know, man. There's like quite a lot of things which are hard, which are hard in this. I think the first one is like appreciating that. So the hardest thing is, I don't know, like there's so much. Okay, can I give like three?
Hardest things? Yeah.
So I think the first one is like the fact that you have to be always on, and you have to be always on, and the littlest thing can just like trigger you to start thinking about a bunch of things which like need to be done, right? I could literally see like a tweet about something, and I'm like, okay, if we done this would have helped us here, this would have helped us here, this would have helped us here, and then it's like, fuck, okay, now time to do that, right? And so that's one. I think the second one is about like prioritization, so like really trying to understand like what is important in a company. But the reason why I say also that is one of the most enjoyable things is I feel like starting a business gives you, or running a business actually gives you so much opportunity to just learn a bunch of different stuff as well. Like I'm like obsessive about reading, right? So every week, like I'll like come to the team like, I read this book and it said this and it said this. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do this, right? Now that's equally enjoyable, but it's also like pretty annoying sometimes because you're like, shit, if I like read this book like 6 months ago, we'd have been here, right? Yeah. So that was hard. And then I think the third thing is like team management, like people management. I think for me, it's always been like, it's something which I've just like struggled with a lot. Cause I've always been kind of like Lone Ranger, right? So when it's kind of like, okay, like now you need to manage a team and stuff. That I think has been hard, but increasingly it's been like easier. Especially when like Mitch and Ambrose gave me a bollocking recently, and I was like, okay, like I just have to.
Yeah, he just took it.
That's good that you can have like co-founders though that can be straight with you, right?
Yeah, I think that's like number one rule.
Yeah, because like fundamentally, like you're not competing for different objectives, right? Like you're all on the same team and you're all trying to achieve the same goal. So when Ambrose or Mitch might say, okay, Tim, you like fucked up here, do this instead. I'm like, okay, because we're each on the same team, right?
Yeah.
So those were like the hardest things for me.
Awesome. So just one more question before we get into some quick fire questions and finish off. What are some of the personal goals that you two have that you want to achieve? Not necessarily business, but just in life in general.
Yeah, loads. Well, not loads. I don't know, it's kind of hard to answer. But I think, so I'll just start off and we can kind of like just say them as they come. But I think ultimately, one of the things that drives me in life, and I think this goes for most people, is the drive to achieve freedom in everything, pretty much. So, you have financial freedom, you have freedom of how you spend your time, you have freedom of who you spend your time with. So in every area of my life, it's almost like designing my life in a way that I have the choice to be able to use my time as I wish, essentially. So one of the goals in FANBYTES is to make myself and I guess ourselves financially, I would say, financially free in a way, so that we have the choice to work on what we want. The way I always think about it is, and I don't think it's the same thing as saying we're doing this for money, because the way I see it is, if I had all the money in the world, would I just stop working? And for me, the answer is no. I would probably be inspired to work on loads of things and reinvest my money in other things which create value in so many different ways. But the point is that you can't do there's some things that you're limited to do if you don't have the actual capital to do it, right?
Yeah.
So having financial gains will allow me the freedom to do more things. So that's one example.
Awesome. And for you, Tim?
The question was,
so like any
personal goals.
Yeah, personal goals. Yeah. And that can still relate back to business or not, just something that you feel you want to achieve or maybe.
So I have a bunch, man. Like, I want to take a company public by the time I'm like 30. I think that'd be an interesting experiment. I want to. This kind of goes back to what's the name of that book by Jean Charles?
Racing Towards Excellence.
Yeah, really
Second
good
book
book.
I read.
Well, what was
Second
it?
book you read, yeah.
Racing Towards Excellence. It's actually after reading that book that I understood why reading was important.
So that book basically like segments your life into like
4 accounts.
Into the 4 accounts. So what was it?
1 being material wealth, 2 being emotional health, 3 being physical health, and 4 being mental health.
And for me, the way to kind of the end goal is to be able to achieve like maximum value in all of them, right? So it kind of leads back to what FANBYTES is saying. To what Ambrose is saying. So like for financial health, it might be like, okay, cool. If you take a company public, you're fine. And then for emotional health, it could be be in like a loving relationship with someone. For mental health, it could be like be at one with myself or something like that. Right? So that for me is kind of the big goals. But then in terms of how it like practically looks, one of them is like take a company public by 30. It's like just I want to set up like an investment fund which just invest in like companies in West Africa, actually, primarily because I'm from Ghana. So invest in those type of companies who are doing stuff with like healthcare and education. But what you tend to find is, although so many people like kind of shirk away from this, what you tend to find is that pretty much you get this freedom and optionality when you have acquired enough money, which then like gives you the optionality, right, to then like decide what to do and what not to do. There's this idea in just life, or actually I think it's in tech, it's not really life, it's in tech, called like fuck you money. And like it's basically an amount of money you can have where anyone can come and say something to you and you just say fuck you, right? Because like you have so much optionality. And like one of the key things is to be able to do that, because then you can then like do things that you want but also like impact way more people. in a way that like you feel you can. Like I feel like there's so much random bad stuff going on in like healthcare, right? But because I'm a 23-year-old who is like, yeah, like I'm financially good, but you know, I don't have like 100 million, right?
Yeah.
In order to like solve. So therefore, you know, figure out the quickest way to get 100 million to solve. Well, take a company public, you might, you know, most likely have 100 million if you take a company public, like very large.
I think it's all about thinking about the kind of a leveraged way in which you can provide an impact. So, for example, if you really care about a certain dying species of animal, then you could sit on a corner like holding up a flyer for ages and saying save the otter, whatever it is, or you could create a like massive organization which draws in resources from all these places, which creates more sustainable facilities for those species.
Yeah.
But the only way you can do that is if you've got the actual
infrastructure
assets,
behind
behind that, and that takes some work. So the time you invest in building that may be way more valuable than the time you spend standing in a corner with this. Even though to a lot of people standing in a corner is like, yay, you're doing something good. Like actually, you're doing something bad in a way. In the way of thinking about it, because you're not thinking about how you're spending your time properly.
Awesome. Right, let's get into some quick fire questions.
Let's do it.
Okay, so for both of you, this can be famous
Do
or
you
family.
this, by the way? Like,
Yeah.
Yes, of course. You've been thinking about it the whole way.
Yeah, I've been like, wow, are people just gonna like sit here for like 54 minutes?
Right. So the biggest person who influenced you, it could be family or someone famous, but
The
biggest person who influenced you.
biggest person who influenced you.
Yeah.
Who influenced you?
My mom, probably.
Yeah.
As in to a point, and then I grew some balls.
It's a gruesome balls. Biggest person who influenced me.
Quick fire, Tim. Come on.
I know. Wait, and it can also be like a book or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Brian Tracy.
Brian Tracy. Cool.
Brian Tracy.
Favorite artist, music artist.
Drake. Jay Haas.
Oh really?
And Drake.
Right, pick one.
Drake, if I had to pick.
Okay.
Travis Scott.
If you could speak to 3 people, dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
1, Michael Jackson. 2, Julian Blanc. Don't know. And
Julian Blanc.
3, my dad.
Yeah. For me, I'd go Travis Kalanick. He's a fan of Uber.
Yeah.
I'd then go with what's the name of that guy? Actually, a guy called Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah.
And then my dad as well. I'd say.
Cool.
That'd be quite cool.
Short or long Bitcoin?
Low.
Long.
iOS or Android?
Oh,
iOS.
come on. Yeah. How's that even a competition?
And city or countryside?
City.
Oh yeah, city, easy.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for coming on the podcast. Just quickly before we end, plug anything that you've got on either of the cameras. If you want your YouTube channel plug. And I'm going to say quickly now, the one thing that I've learned this week, or these past weeks being here, a quote I'm going to take away, which you actually said, was that you can learn anything. And I think that's really true, that if you really want to do something, just go out there and there's resources to learn it. So check out your channel, your YouTube channel. There's some really good stuff on there, and there's going to be more content coming up in the next few weeks. And also, you have a really good TEDx talk, which will give some more context behind you. So I'm going to plug that for you guys, but it's over to you. So
yeah, so as you were saying, YouTube channel, I've actually recently started that up, and my plan there is really just to share and educate anything about starting a business and also around lifestyle design. So follow that. My name's Ambrose Cooke, so just put it into YouTube, you can find it. And also
Cooke is C-O-O-K-E.
C-O-O-K-E.
Yeah.
And check the Instagram as well.
Sound like such a diva. Check my Instagram. Check my LinkedIn. No, yeah, man. If you wanna plug, I'm gonna plug a book. Go read a book. Go read a book, and the book is called Psycho-Cybernetics. Go read that book. It will change your life in the same way it changed mine. Cheers.
And read this book. So good they can't ignore you by County Board. I think that's one of the most important books you can